Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show that asks, what if Shriekers were called Freakers? Where today, Bungie has shown us the seasonal artifact for the upcoming season, so that's what we're going to talk about. This artifact's theme is, this time, shockingly enough, prismatic themed, although with some individual subclass love thrown in there as well, in addition to a lot of sword love. Feels like it's been a minute since we've had a bunch of sword mods in there. The rest of the TWID here doesn't have a huge amount of information, but whatever it does have, we are going to discuss that after talking about the artifact. So let's go down to the artifact here. First column, you have your anti-champion equipment. For the next little while, we have anti-barrier pulse and SMG down here. We have overload hand cannon and overload sword over here in the third column. And we also have unstop sidearm and unstop scout rifle. I expect Red Death to get in some reps for anti-barrier pulse in maybe some Master GM content. Healing tends to be pretty good there. Unstoppable sidearm, you're probably going to see Buried Bloodline continue to be pretty successful. Does a rocket sidearm also do unstop? It's a sidearm technically, right? It's a sidearm, so that's still probably going to get some use. And I think there's like another rocket sidearm that's coming in final shape. I think it's a strand one. So those are going to continue to be very strong options when it comes to any kind of end game loadouts. Second column is also a pretty standard affair. Perks that increase the value of origin traits. Logic Reductor, you do increased damage to Vex, and it extends the duration of Radiolaria pools when you use Radiolaria Transposer, the origin trait. That's maybe yet another hint into what episode 1 could be about, given that the episode's roadmap has what looks like a Vex on it. I know nothing about episode 1 literally at all, so it'll be interesting to see when we get access to it. We've been getting a few hints as to what episode 1 is mainly going to entail. The season 23 finale. Now we have some Vex related weapons. I mean, it's easy to put 2 and 2 together there. Overcharged memory. Weapons with these origin traits are overcharged when overcharge is active. So Dealer's Choice, Radiolaria Transposer, Collective Purpose, and Sundering Origin. Dealer's Choice is part of the Pale Heart of the Traveler weapons that we're going to be getting. And that origin trait is where Final Blows give a small amount of super energy, and you get more super energy for having more of those kinds of weapons equipped. We're going to have plenty to discuss as far as weapon rolls go in final shape when that is out, so stay locked here for that. Next, we have elemental charge mods being significantly discounted. Usually the cost of mods isn't the main limitation in build crafting. It tends to be how many mods you can equip. I'm sure this is still going to make some kind of an impact somewhere, though. Saint's Inspiration. Rounds loaded by the Cast No Shadows origin trait can overflow the magazine. Overflowing the magazine of a weapon is a very, very powerful effect, as we've seen, depending on the weapon. It's not as impactful on an auto rifle compared to a rocket launcher or a GL or something like that. So we're going to keep some eyes out for that. Finally, we have Winning Hand. Essentially makes any weapons with Dealer's Choice have Firefly built in, it looks like. At least the explosion part. With more weapons being equipped, increasing the size of this explosion. Bungie really trying to make people use these weapons next season. More super energy, bigger explosions. All right, we'll see. So now we're going to move into the third column. We're getting a little more juice, a little more heftier mods, starting with Elemental Siphon. Rapid kills with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your super's element. Create an elemental pickup that matches your super. I think this might be kind of a sleeper mod, a sleeper pick. There are multiple fragments that deal with elemental pickups for Prismatic or just any subclass in general. And as I covered, I think Prismatic has an insane amount of potential. This is just going to be another way to speed your way to Transcendence activations. So it would not surprise me if something like this maybe reads a little bit boring, but ends up being actually quite good in select builds. Next, we got Overload Sword. We kind of covered that. It's also overcharged when that modifier is active. There's a couple more sword perks that we're going to be talking about as well. Creeping Chill, stasis weapon final blows against slowed or frozen targets release a burst that slows. This just sounds like Incandescent, but for stasis, which sounds pretty nice to me, sounds pretty interesting. It maybe wouldn't even surprise me if this could potentially become a perk sometime in the future. Like, because, you know, we have Incandescent. Like, this is basically Incandescent. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? This seems pretty good. You know, and we are getting a bit of I don't want to say stasis rework, but some things in stasis are, you know, being brought up to more of like a 3.0 level as opposed to like a, you know, a 2.47 level that they might be at right now. So I'm gonna keep eyes. Press the advantage. Breaking a combatant's shield gives a bunch of stats: weapon stability, handling, reload speed, swords gain increased guard resistance. For PvE, I'm feeling like this is kind of a non-factor, kind of like a whole lot of not really anything that special. So unless the stat boosts are really, really crazy, I don't see this getting a ton of attention for PvE. So I think we're just going to keep moving on. Threaded Blast is coming back. Destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion. I enjoyed this perk when it was around. And with Better Devils returning as a strand weapon, you have a shiny new strand primary weapon to play around with. So this will not be terribly difficult to activate if you want to build into it. Next, we're going to column 4, Counter Energy. When you or a member of your fire team stuns a champion, you gain energy for your least charged ability. I think the energy needs to be pretty substantial for me to care about this, but my guess is that it'll be a decent amount at the least. It wouldn't surprise me if this was something where it maybe even give you a full recharge on an ability. I can see this maybe getting out of hand a little bit in endgame content. It's not like champions are literally everywhere, but they're common enough in certain endgame pieces of content that it has some potential. But I also think there's a lot of other things here that might push this out of the limelight. Next up, we have Blade Stamina. Rapidly defeating combatants with a sword refunds some ammo. Pretty much a lock if you're using a sword in almost any amount, but without more information. It just sounds like Relentless Strikes, but a little bit weaker because you need kills. It all depends on the ammo refund. But, you know, if you're using a sword, you're probably picking up all the sword mods in here. And if you're not, then you're not. Like, that's just kind of what it is, really. Yeah, Tireless Blade. Next up, we have 3 mods that all deal with doing something to get some sort of a subclass effect. Void Hegemony. When you have a Void or Prismatic subclass equipped, defeating weakened targets gives a small Void overshield. Compared to the other two, maybe not the stone cold lock of the century of the week that Void is really looking for. I think overshields in PvE, not really the most exciting, not really the most powerful of the subclass effects. I'm open to being surprised. However, we go to then Radiant Orbs. It's coming back. Picking up an Orb of Power makes you radiant if you have Solar or Prismatic equipped. Not quite the ridiculousness of the old version, which had no subclass restriction at all, but still an insanely strong effect for what amounts to very little work compared to its Void counterpart. Next, we have Galvanic Armor, and this is the Arc version of this little mini-series here. While Arc or Prismatic, incoming damage from combatants is reduced while amplified. This might be Bungie trying out some kind of damage resist thing for Arc subclasses. It's not super hard to get amplified on any of the more mainstream Arc builds, and Arc kind of has a... how do I say this? Staying alive problem, at least in higher difficulty content. So if it's anything on par with maybe like a Frost Armor or Woven Mail, I could see Arc starting to make a small push into the limelight again in more endgame pieces of content, because it needs something to keep it in the fray. If you're on Prismatic, it's totally possible to get all 3 of these perks rolling at once. So stacking all of them, going to be pretty interesting to see. Prismatic is still why I want to see the buff UI expanded even more to show more buffs, because otherwise it's just going to get taken up by all of these different subclass buffs that you're going to have pretty much all the time. So I really would love to see this go from like 4 to at least 6, or at least give me the option to, for more casual players, they don't want that information overload. Fine, I respect it. For me, I can read all that. I can analyze very quickly what I have and how I can utilize it. 5th column, Prismatic Transfer. When you cast your super, each member of your team with a different super type than yours gains a bonus to weapon damage. Bungie trying to make some kind of setup happen where everyone is on a unique super element. We'll see. This is just going to depend on how much of a buff it is to weapon damage. How much does it stack with other effects? A lot of testing to be done. Plus, you need coordination on top of that. You can't just like scoop this mod for free and just have it be the end of it and just kind of rolling all the time. You got to do some coordination to really maximize it. So a lot of testing to be done. Pretty much on the entire artifact, I do want to make a video where I go over every single perk and, show what it does, because we are going to be with this artifact for a bit longer than the average artifact, as we are going to a 3 update a year model, as opposed to what we have been doing, which has been 4 updates, which means you are going to have this artifact for over 100 days. And I know that doesn't seem too crazy based on the fact that we've had this past artifact for like 6 months now, but that was kind of like a different situation. Argent Blade, the sword saga continues. While you have armor charge, dealing sword damage empowers your sword for a short time, boosting damage and energy regains. I mean, who knows? Maybe we rotate back to some kind of a sword meta with this artifact for all the boosts that it's getting for swords. Falling Guillotine is still a part of Into the Light for a few more days, and it's Void, which is going to matter a lot for this next perk, which I'm kind of expecting to be a staple for the raid scene. Expanding Abyss. Void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. Falling Guillotine, Edge Transit, Braytech Osprey, Commemoration, Hammerhead, Leviathan's Breath. These are merely some of the Void weapons that you should maybe have prepared in case this perk ends up being a big deal, which it might. Now, Tractor Cannon provides a weaken effect, and it has been very important in the raiding scene, but it also suppresses, and I'm not sure if that Void weaken effect is going to apply to Expanding Abyss, or if it's just specifically the keyword weaken, and you need to have weaken, and like Tractor Cannon doesn't work. Oh yeah, Doomed Petitioner, also very, very good. Okay, Gnawing Hunger, fine. Yeah, Doomed Petitioner, another one of the top weapons of the season. Definitely go get Doomed Petitioner, Linear Fusion Rifle. Really need to see if this is going to work with Tractor Cannon before I come to a conclusion. But also maybe there could be a situation where weakening a target and then also having Expanding Abyss is better than Tractor Cannon. We just need to test. A lot of testing to be done. Collective Obligation, Buried Bloodline. An excellent weapon. A lot of good Void weapons out there that I would start making sure you have prepared in case Expanding Abyss ends up becoming a big part of the raiding scene. Next up, we have Shield Crush. When you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or an Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals more damage. Oh, good. Strand Titan was feeling kind of weak there for 1 second. And then when you're Amplified or you're Radiant, your grenade charges faster and deals increased damage. These literally just don't even seem fair. Bungie just literally out here just like, I don't know. Give them whatever they want. Like, who cares? I think this is going to be a build-defining mod, depending on how substantial the energy gains are. They could be completely insubstantial, and we just move on. Or they could be absolutely berserk, and Shield Crush is just a staple in so many builds that end up coming out with Final Shape. It just completely depends. Woven Mail giving you more melee. Like, we just got a new Strand Exotic for Titan. I'm not gonna. I mean, if you're here, you probably don't care about spoilers. But like, we just got a new we just got a new Strand exotic for Titan. That's just like the Strand exotic that's going to replace Syntheseps probably. This is probably just going to go nuts. Unless the ability and damage increases are, not anything too crazy. This is just like, come on, man. And finally, transference. Gain increased grenade and melee damage while transcendent. This could have been it. There's still more. This could have been the whole thing. Then they added this. Weapon final blows while transcendent. Refund light and dark energy after transcendence ends. This is like an exotic perk in the artifact. This would have been enough. This would have been fine. Like, you don't even need this. The entire game plan of Prismatic is to go Transcendent as much as possible. If you're using Prismatic, I don't see why this does not become a staple unless the effects are incredibly weak. I will say that while Transcendent, using my weapon was a last resort because I was getting so much energy. I only used my weapon when I had no abilities to use for like the half of second that I didn't have my abilities. But I could see a situation where you go Transcendent specifically to gain bonus weapon effects, since you gain bonus weapon damage while Transcendent, and then just try to get back as much of your energy as possible, and then just use your Transcendence as a way to buff your weapon damage as much as humanly possible. That is one way to go about it. I think it's a slightly boring way to go about it, because I think part of the fun of Transcendence is spamming all of your abilities and the increase or the better grenade that you get. But this could also be some kind of an option to have that kind of playstyle if you want to stay more weapon focused. Wow, this artifact is so stacked. It's so stacked. I think that's partly because a chunk of the perks are prismatic focused, which means they also apply to like all subclasses. So every subclass is getting a little bit of individual love. It's not going to be like this past season where there's like 37 solar perks and then like 2 or 3 for Strand and Stasis. Most of the perks seem really good. Some of them potentially build defining perks depending on the numbers. Like I've been saying, Prismatic is, I think, going to be a build crafter's dream when it comes to all the stuff that it's getting: artifact perks, aspects, fragments, exotic class item. I'm really excited to start diving into the incredible range of builds that I think we're going to be seeing with Prismatic. That's the artifact. It's pretty crazy. Let's cover a couple of other small things with the TWID before we get out of here, like the name of the raid, which I feel like I've probably scrolled down enough that I've already spoiled, but in case I didn't, and in case you haven't been paying attention, I'm about to spoil the name of the raid in 3, 2, 1. Salvation's Edge. I definitely scrolled down far enough. Salvation's Edge, June 7th, 10 a.m. It's going to be contest mode for 48 hours again, so Friday and Saturday. You need to be at least 1965 power level in order to get in. If you do the Legend campaign, which I'm anticipating to be a little bit easier than the previous two, I think you're getting gear that boosts you up to 1960, so you are not going to need to do a lot of leveling if you do the Legendary campaign, which I do recommend if you think you are capable of getting through it without too much of a struggle. Entry requirements: you need to do the campaign and the wildcard exotic quest. But only the fire team leader needs to meet that requirement. Everyone else, you could just be like, oh, I'm loading it up for the first time ever, let's go. But the campaign is going to have story spoilers. So really, you should do the campaign and the exotic quest before hopping into the raid, if possible. Change the way that we track and recognize world first completion of the raid. You no longer are required to return to orbit to finish the race. You just, as soon as you pick up the chest, that's your time. And Bungie's going to, check with analytics before they announce the winning team. Maybe they find out that the winning team actually cheated or exploited or like whatever, and they can be disqualified even after the announcement, blah, 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 blah. If you're watching the raid on Twitch, which I will be streaming, there are multiple emblems to get for you emblem gremlins out there. We have the stand-in Salvation emblem. Watch at least 2 hours of any Destiny streamer during the raid race. Then there's watch at least 2 hours of the Destiny 2 Twitch Rivals stream or any participating Twitch Rivals creator. I am a Twitch Rivals creator, so you will be able to earn both of these emblems at my stream. And they've also introduced a third emblem where if you subscribe to your favorite Destiny 2 streamer, it has to be your favorite. It cannot be your third favorite or fourth favorite. It has to be your favorite. You get this emblem Only available also between the launch of the new raid during contest mode. If you're already subscribed to a streamer, I don't know how to get this emblem. They didn't give any clarification. Maybe if you're already subbed, you get the emblem. I don't know. But if you are looking to subscribe to someone on Twitch, wait until the raid race and then do it, and then you get this emblem. That's all. There's also going to be some chat badges that you can earn. I think this one's pretty cute. That you can.
Do something. Come along, Brimothy. Our work here is done.
Oh, sorry. This is an emote, not a badge. Okay. You can use it. Everyone can use it, and then you get badges depending on how much you watch of Destiny on the raid race. That's about it. Otherwise, we have some notes about preloading the expansion. You will be able to start preloading on June 3rd at 10 a.m., which is basically reset time, because the servers are coming down for 24 hours. So a full day. So if you have Destiny chores to do, you better do them Sunday, because Monday, the game is not going to be live. They are shutting it down. They are preparing final shape. If you want to start preloading, get ready for that. Just a note that if you are on Steam, you need 300 gigs to preload, because you're going to have both the base game, or I mean like the game as it is right now, and the game with final shape. And then when final shape launches, it's going to get rid of the old version of Destiny. So you need to be able to hold both if you want to preload. If you don't need to preload, then like you don't need to worry about the space requirement, but we were just talking about it in my chat very recently, and some people are like, I don't have that much space, bro. This is only for preload. So just if you do want to preload, be mindful of some of these size requirements. This does not mean that the game is going to be 300 gigs. It just means that you need to have 300 gigs in order to preload, and then it'll go back down to this size. That's it. I do want to make mention of something that happened also today that I almost made a full video about, and that is with some leaks that happened today. Essentially what happened was Sony launched Final Shape way early, and certain people were able to access like the first small chunk of the game. Originally, I thought this was much more substantial than it ended up being. I literally woke up to a Reddit post that was just like, the whole thing leaked, bro. And after reading into what actually happened, I'll put a link into what actually happened, spoiler free, in the description if you want to read up. But essentially what happened was some people were able to log into Final Shape early. They could only make a new character though. So a lot of the spoilers that might be out there on the internet right now are pretty much based on what was able to be discovered in the collections tab. Some people got to play a little bit of the first mission. There's maybe a cutscene, the intro cutscene for the Final Shape that might be floating around YouTube. Just be careful. There's some spoilers out there. Do I think it's anything that you really need to be super hyper vigilant about if you're someone who has watched this video all the way through? No, I do not. I've been joking that I have probably seen more of the Final Shape at my preview event than most people will see for these leaks and spoilers and stuff. It still sucks that it happens, it still sucked that it happened, but it is not as insane as I originally thought. You had to start a fresh account. You need to get through the tutorial to even start playing Final Shape, like the base tutorial, like New Light tutorial. So it's not that big of a deal, but just just still be wary, because there's still some information out there that I'm not allowed to talk about. So just be careful out there. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for watching. We are very, very close to Final Shape. I have a couple more videos on the way, including my concluding thoughts on Season 23, and then just like some final thoughts as we go into Final Shape. That'll be out on Monday while the servers are down, so you'll have something to do while the servers are down. And then one more small thing coming tomorrow that I think will be kind of neat, kind of funny. That's it. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.